This video blew the lid off of the real war President Trump is waging for you right now to make America more independent and freer than ever. Trump's not messing around. He's crushing globalists, dismantling Antifa's street terror, holding the EU and the British Empire at arm's length so our economic engine can roar back to life after draining us of jobs and plundering our wealth with wars. Davos elites and Brussels bureaucrats want to own the United States, suck our jobs dry, tank our economy, weaken our dollar so that they can climb on top of the mountain using our bodies and lives. Nobody wants American dominance. They want us beggars funding their empires. But Trump's waging total war for the middle class and the working man, your family, your paycheck, and your future. This isn't fully political. It's a behind the scenes revolution most people can't see. I'm going to show you this video so that you can see exactly what President Trump is doing, not only to strengthen America, but make sure that the dollar and our way of life are the dominant player in the world and specifically in the Western Hemisphere. Make sure to like and subscribe. Check this out.
What do a shooting in Minneapolis, the Davos smackdown, and a 170-year-old British playbook have in common? They're all part of the same war, and the empire just lost its first line of defense. President Trump's new national defense strategy just ended 80 years of American support for regime change operations abroad. No more color revolutions in other countries, no more democracy promotion. The post-war order isn't dying, it's dead. So what do the British do when they can't run their operations overseas anymore? They bring them home. Now they tell you Minneapolis is about communities fighting back against authoritarian ICE agents. But what you're really seeing is a textbook color revolution, the same tactics Lord Palmerston pioneered 170 years ago to stop the American system from spreading. And the same personnel who ran regime change in Ukraine and Syria are now running operations in the Midwest. Today, we're going to cover three things. First, Minneapolis as a classic British destabilization operation, and the USAID operative caught running it. Second, why the British are suddenly obsessed with Lord Palmerston, the original Color Revolution author. And third, the new national defense strategy as the final nail that forced them to bring the war home. While the media gaslights you about out-of-control ICE agents, Vice President J.D. Vance put his finger squarely on the truth. He said, "This level of engineered chaos is unique to Minneapolis. It is the direct consequence of far-left agitators working with local authorities." Engineered chaos, working with local authorities. Let that sink in. And here's one of those local authorities. Rachel Sayre, the EMS chief in Minneapolis, posted this attack on federal law enforcement.
My background is in international humanitarian response in conflict zones. In Yemen, Haiti, Syria, Iraq, and Ukraine. What I've seen here is what I've seen there. A powerful entity violently and intentionally terrorizing people.
Did you catch that? She just told you exactly who she is. Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Ukraine, pretty much everywhere the empire has run a color revolution, she was involved. And during the Obama administration, she worked for USAID, the very institution that Donald Trump and Marco Rubio just shut down precisely because it was a hotbed of anti-American activity, funding the NGOs that helped flood illegal immigrants into this country. She's not comparing Minneapolis to a war zone to be dramatic. She's telling you that the same class of professionals who manage regime change operations abroad are now running operations in the Midwest. And Minneapolis isn't a random flashpoint. This is ground zero, the origin of George Floyd, BLM, and American Antifa itself. The first explicitly Antifa group in America was formed in Minneapolis in 1987, explicitly modeled on a British organization and designed to import European destabilization tactics onto American soil. A foreign pathogen introduced 40 years ago, nurtured by globalist money, now fully activated. This is an organic American protest. This is a professional regime change tactic deployed on American soil. So why Minneapolis? Why now? Because the empire has just lost its primary weapon. In recent weeks, the foreign policy mouthpieces of the Anglo-American establishment have been clutching their pearls about the end of the post-war order. They know the game is up. Just look at Mark Carney, the new anti-Trump voice of the empire, delivering the obituary at Davos this week.
We know the old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy. But we believe that from the fracture, we can build something bigger, better, stronger.
But here's where it gets interesting. If you listen closely, the leading British and Commonwealth voices aren't just mourning the post-war order. They're suddenly obsessed with the 19th century. NPR is reporting that Trump's America First is dragging us back to a 19th century world of spheres of influence. And the Council on Foreign Relations warns we're drifting not by accident, but by structural necessity toward a world that looks far less like the liberal universalism of 1945 and more like the balance of power order of the late 19th century. Spheres of influence, managed rivalry, and transactional diplomacy. And then enter Jeremy Corbyn of the British Labour Party. He chimed in.
What we're looking at is almost 19th century imperial powers squabbling over bits and pieces from the rest of the world.
Now ask yourself, what was Britain's greatest fear in the 19th century? That the principles of the American Revolution would spread, that the economics of the American system would create strong, prosperous, sovereign nations, leaving the imperial policies of financial control, backwardness, and depopulation in the dust. Which, by the way, is exactly what Donald Trump is doing today. So how do they want to respond? Pay attention to the Anglosphere commentators. Suddenly, it's all the rage to quote Lord Palmerston. First, it was Lord Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Henry John Temple, Lord Palmerston, one of my great heroes, and I'm using one of my favourite books, the Dictionary of Quotations. He famously said, "We have no eternal allies, and we have no perpetual enemies. Our interests are eternal and perpetual, and those interests it is our duty to follow." This is really important because when you're looking at foreign policy, it is crucial to remember.
Then Canadian Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre referenced Palmerston in the same way as a model for the current transition.
But we must also remember that our trade and security partnership with the U.S. is centuries old and will outlast one president. To quote the British Liberal Prime Minister, Lord Palmerston, "We have no eternal allies and we have no perpetual enemies. Our interests are eternal and perpetual, and those interests it is our duty to follow."
And the British website Unheard lamented that the nation of Lord Palmerston is unable to secure itself a place in an emerging global order. Now, this isn't nostalgia. This is a roadmap. Lord Palmerston dominated British foreign policy from 1809 to 1865 as Secretary of War, Foreign Secretary, and Prime Minister. His mission was simple: destroy any nation or alliance that might follow in the footsteps of the United States and challenge British hegemony. And how did he do it? He didn't just use gunboats. He pioneered the use of mobs and liberation movements to destabilize rival nations from within. He sponsored anarchists, separatists, and radicals across Europe and America to break up sovereign states that threatened the empire. Lord Palmerston was the original author of the Color Revolution. And now, as the American system rises again under this administration, the heirs of Palmerston are dusting off his playbook. They see that the national security strategy and now the new national defense strategy have ended U.S. support for color revolutions abroad. So they're bringing the war home. Now, what really forced the empire's hand? What made them activate the Palmerston playbook on American soil? Donald Trump and his team just spent a week at Davos delivering a very specific message. Globalism is a failure. Europe is irrelevant. We're not fighting your wars. The post-war order is dead, and the real America is back. Howard Lutnick, Scott Bessent, and Trump himself were relentless in ripping globalism to pieces. But while the media obsessed over their rhetoric, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth quietly released the 2026 National Defense Strategy on January 23rd, and that document is the real hammer blow. For 80 years, American foreign policy was written by the British. From the Cold War to NATO to the endless wars after 1989, this was all designed to keep nations locked in permanent conflict so the imperial elite could maintain control. America was the enforcer, we were their dumb giant. The new NDS throws that out the window. Here's the key paragraph. We will defend the homeland and ensure that our interests in the Western Hemisphere are protected. We will deter China in the Indo-Pacific through strength, not confrontation. We will increase burden sharing with allies and partners around the world, and we will rebuild the U.S. defense industrial base as part of the president's once-in-a-century revival of American industry. Now, this document explicitly states that the security of the U.S. homeland and the Western Hemisphere is now our primary concern, not China, where, as you saw, the language shifted from strategic competition to strength, not confrontation. And the usual saber-rattling over Taiwan, gone. Well, the British noticed. And even more shocking to the geopolitical establishment, Russia is now described as a persistent but manageable threat to NATO's eastern members. Did you catch that? A threat to NATO's eastern members, not necessarily to the United States. And the Washington Post got that message. What does this add up to? The revival of the Monroe Doctrine. The Western Hemisphere is now the foundation of American national defense. Not Europe, not the Pacific, but our neighborhood. And the Department of War isn't waiting around. Immediately after the NDS dropped, Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane announced something unprecedented. On February 11th, he's convening military leaders from 34 Western Hemisphere nations. The mission? Take down Dope Incorporated, the narco-terrorist networks that have been a favorite weapon of the British Empire since the Opium Wars. That's why Maduro was captured. That's why Venezuela, Colombia, and other countries are being given the opportunity to free themselves from the cartels. And the February meeting will bring the rest of the hemisphere into the fight. Trump didn't just ruffle feathers at Davos. He ended 80 years of British-written American foreign policy. No more permanent great power enemies. No more regime change abroad. No more color revolutions funded by USAID. No more American blood and treasure spent enforcing the empire's rules-based order. They had no choice but to activate domestic assets. The Trump administration announced the end of the post-war order, and the empire knows it. And that's why they're suddenly channeling Lord Palmerston, the original color revolution mastermind, who spent decades trying to stop the American system from spreading. They couldn't beat us through their rules-based order, so they're reaching back 170 years for the playbook that preceded it. Which brings us back to Minneapolis. This isn't spontaneous outrage over immigration enforcement. This is a Palmerston operation, professional color revolution tactics imported from Britain 40 years ago, nurtured by globalist money, and now deployed against a sitting U.S. president. The same people who ran regime change in Ukraine and Syria are running operations in Minnesota. Rachel Sayre told you so herself. But the new NDS shows we know their game. And this time we're not playing by their rules. The British establishment wants you to think America is the new empire. In fact, Chatham House is even hosting a seminar called The New Threat of Imperial America. Think about that. The headquarters of the British imperial establishment is accusing America of being imperial for refusing to fight their wars.